McChats here on McGTV. Welcome back to McChats here on McGTV, youtube.com/MikeMcGTV. Follow me on Twitter at MikeMcGTV. Oh God, wouldn't it be amazing if I did this entire podcast in backwards talk? I'm not only 2 days out from doing my initial impressions of the Twin Peaks revival when David Lynch and Mark Frost had to lay a whopper of an episode on me this week in episode 8 of the revival. Not only are we not going to have a new episode of Twin Peaks for, I think, about 2 weeks, which is probably appropriate given that there may or may not be a lot to unpack with this particular episode. And that's why I decided to dedicate an actual podcast to just this sole installment in the revival, but also because I have a tale from Wookieepedia attached to the end of this program. And I'll put in timestamps perhaps in the description below, so if you wish to go to the tale for Wookieepedia right away, without getting things spoiled in my breakdown of this past episode, good on you. I'll put it down below, and you can just skip on ahead to that. It features me, Max, Dan, and Phil from 3 Geeks Podcast, and I was able to get them all together to regale them with a tale of Star Wars lore. So you can skip ahead to that if you wish. But if you are hanging around to hear my thoughts on what went down this past Sunday in the world of Twin Peaks, you have been warned. There are going to be major spoilers ahead, I'm sure. Even though, once again, as I mentioned when it comes to spoilers in Twin Peaks, even when I try to share potential revelations, I'm not sure how much they're going to make sense, even to me, who's telling them to you. So where to begin? Like I'd mentioned in the last podcast, I have been enjoying and scratching my head at this revival of the show. It's got great moments, and it's got great Lynchian moments, which may not necessarily be to everyone's tastes. For the most part now, I've understood what he's kind of doing, or what I think he's doing. He is trying to continue his story, but he's not trying to play it safe, probably like he was forced to when they were on ABC's terms. And he is also trying to get a lot of ideas and themes across in this maxi series, but also kind of have a send-up of the way we handle our modern-day television, especially serial drama consumption. So, the week prior, episode 7, it felt like things were finally starting to chug along at the regular Twin Peaks pace we're accustomed to. Character moments were starting to be more frequent. There was a little bit more development on the Cooper plot. And it felt as though things were slowly but surely starting to coalesce into, crossing paths again. Hopefully within the actual town of Twin Peaks. David Lynch, I guess, decided, okay, well, here we go. For David Lynch, I got to get into my David Lynch voice. David Lynch decided, okay, that was a bit too sensical. Let me throw a whopper of a mindfuck out there for them this week. So episode 8, this past week, started off with a pretty big opening regarding evil doppelganger Cooper. Or Mr. C, I guess, is what the show's come to kind of know him as. If you're already this far in, can't be mad at me. I'm going into spoiler territory. Again, go to the timestamp to listen for your Star Wars stuff. But since the show started, it's been established that Cooper's doppelganger, who took over his life, essentially, at the end of the second season, has been running around causing havoc for the past 25 years. And that finally, it was pretty much solidly revealed that the soul or the spirit of Killer Bob was encased in the Cooper doppel for this whole time. And of course, they don't have actual Killer Bob in person in new scenes because Frank Silva is dead, the actor. So it's been relying a lot on archival footage of him and integrating his likeness digitally into some moments with Cooper Doppel, where he'll be in prison and he'll look in the mirror and his face will contort ever so slightly into the familiar grimace of Killer Bob. Well, this past week, Coop Doppel was driving through, no man's land essentially with his associate. I think it's Gary. And the whole idea is that Gary's. I telegraphed this a while back. It felt like Doppel Cooper was gonna kill him or double cross him, but the guy was already 10 steps ahead, left an empty gun in the glove compartment, drew out his gun on the side of the road while he was acting like he was taking a piss, and shot him down. And then out comes the homeless brigade, I like to call them. I guess they're officially called woodsmen, but out comes the homeless brigade, who are these apparitions, these dirty, filthy, transient-looking apparitions that have been popping in and out of, I want to say, not just the revival of Twin Peaks so far, but I'm, again, tying into my theory that this is all connected in some sort of weird universe with other properties like Mulholland Drive. It reminded me a lot of that trash demon thing that, what's his name? The weird looking dude with the big nose who was at the diner with Justin Theroux, that he saw in the back alley of the diner in Mulholland Drive. You know what I'm talking about. But it looked like that, except like a legion of these guys. And they're dancing around Coop Doppel's body, opening up wounds on him, and I guess extracting the soul of Killer Bob from him. Maybe. Who knows? Gary takes off in a rush, fearful for his life, I'm sure. Coop Doppel isn't dead. He springs to sit straight up. 5 minute 9-inch nails concert back in Twin Peaks, which honestly I really enjoyed. It was fun just listening to some 9-inch nails again. Then the next, 60% of the episode got really weird and really experimental, and part of me really feels like it could have context, but the other part of me is like, I think David Lynch is just fucking with us, maybe? I don't know. So, opening up on the atomic blast in New Mexico in the 40s, close-up of that, going further and further, and it's like he's doing kind of his own take on the opening of Fantasia, with all the different patterns echoing, to reflect the sounds that are being made. It gets very Kubrickian as you go into the mushroom cloud and the blast, and swirls of red and flames and things like that. Then that demon thing from the first episode shows up and vomits up liquid and eggs, and one of the eggs just happens to be a black orb with Killer Bob's face inside of it. Then what else happened? Then a close-up of a gas station, or like a quick stop of some kind. That almost gave me a seizure. It was epileptic as all hell from the looks of it. The flashing lights in and out of focus on the stills of the frame, and then those legions of woodsmen come back into frame, just meandering around in a mist. Then a purple ocean. Then a high up castle on a rock, which I think that's where Coop was in the second and third episodes when he was traversing through the universe. That might have been where he was kind of trapped momentarily before coming through a light socket and transforming into Dougie. Like I said, I'm telling you all this stuff that happens in the show and is potential spoilers, but God help me if you understand any of this. Flapper lady sitting in her boudoir, listening to some music, swaying. It's all in black and white. There's a bell with an alarm on it, like a clock tower bell at the side with an alarm bell on it. The giant shows up, checks it, walks around, goes to an old-timey movie theater screen and sees Bob's soul in the orb there. Lifts up into the air, floating there, spews out yellow golden sparkles, I should say. Flapper lady comes on over and witnesses this and is very moved by it. One of the golden orbs descends. She picks it up and gives it a kiss. As you can see, the visage of Laura Palmer is contained within. It gets sent up into a magical trumpet horn. As I was watching this, I'm like, this would make for an amazing 3D experience, honestly. It's very it's very Hugo-ish almost with its design work. Where was I? Oh yeah, golden trumpet that sucked up the golden orb. So Earth now is on the movie screen. Golden orb gets spit out of the trumpet, lands somewhere in the northwest. Oh god, what happened next? Oh, now fast forward to 1956. An egg touches down in the desert somewhere. Egg cracks open. Wasp / moth / frog creature emerges from it and scuttles around the desert floor. Those woodsmen are back, asking passersby if they got a light, and just freaking the shit out of everyone because they are creepy looking people, just all like covered in soot and black, and it's black and white already, very Eraserhead influence from the looks of things. Everyone's freaked out by them. A boy and a girl are walking home from a date. He walks her to her house. She goes in the house. I was listening for names because I was thinking, like, is this the origins of somebody already within the show's mythology? But I couldn't recall any specific names. One of the woodsmen makes his way to a radio station, goes in, cracks the receptionist's head open by just grabbing her head and always saying, got a light? Goes into the recording booth, grabs the DJ by the head, but doesn't kill him just yet. Grabs a hold of the microphone and starts saying, "This is the water, and this is the well. Drink full and descend. The horse is the white of the eyes, and dark within." Like, I was expecting Fire Walk With Me to be kind of the tagline on that. But no, he just repeats that several times, and you see it has almost a hypnotic effect on the town. People start falling asleep. A lady falls asleep at the diner. A guy falls asleep in the garage while he's working on his car. The girl from before falls asleep on her bed. And I guess this is all meant to facilitate frog, moth, wasp creature coming into her room and crawling into her mouth. And she is none the wiser and is still asleep. And then he finally cracks DJ's skull open and leaves, walks out into the night. The end. What? So, let's break this down a little bit, shall we? Because I have been looking at articles after this, trying to see what other people, whether they're diehards or whether they're just brand new to this trend now or this event, what they had to think of it. I misspoke before. Ray, not Gary. My fault. Ray is his partner who left him for dead out there. But that's not. I made that made sense. That whole part, I'm like, okay, I'm along for the ride for this particular aspect of the story. It didn't lose me as soon as it went to Mushroom Cloud. It's interesting. As soon as it starts into the 40s in New Mexico, here's what I think is going on. Two things. One, David Lynch is out to purposely fuck with people. I think he knew that his way of going about conveying this particular part of the story was going to confound everybody. And like I said, I don't think he cares that it confounds you. This is him messing with the formula of what people are going to accept in their serial dramas these days. Because we've had some whoppers of weird series throughout the past couple of years, and David Lynch is trying to at least stay relevant amongst them. Whether or not he's succeeding, that's entirely up to your interpretation, but he's got you talking about what's going on in this show, and that is a staple for these types of water cooler shows. So you have this nuclear explosion that seems to just create utter chaos, but from that utter chaos comes a couple of familiar symbols and a couple of familiar structures. What I would want to be thinking is that this is either just a metaphorical representation of the very powerful forces of good and evil that are at play in the supernatural world of Twin Peaks. Or this is literally where the idea for white and black lodges came from. So a lot of people are speculating, like, is this the birth of the demonic entities such as Killer Bob or such as the Giant? Well, it seems like the Giant is already kind of a fully realized persona. Whether or not this is all taking place, or whether or not this is over time, like along the lines of something like The Rite of Spring in Fantasia, where you see the creation of the world and it goes through its different phases all the way through like the age of the dinosaurs, pretty much. Is that kind of David Lynch's equivalent for his Twin Peaks universe? Is this the formation of those concepts of the white and black lodges at play from its humble beginnings to where it is today with doppelgangers and visions for people all over the place? I don't know. One thing I would really like to think this is not literally a representation of the formation of these ideas or of this particular aspect of Twin Peaks, but kind of, in a sense, like metaphorical, maybe very metaphorical. You could argue maybe that perhaps it was something massive and reality warping to an effect, like a nuclear explosion that opened the gateway. Perhaps this world has always been there, because, like I said, it seems that the Giant and this tower and the area he inhabits with the lady have been pretty well established. They're not formless. They're not without definition. He's in his trademark suit. The architecture and the set design, when you get to that aspect, is well detailed. So part of me would like to think that white and black lodges have always been there. Those realms of good and evil have always been there. Just a thin membrane keeps them from interacting with us. And it was something like the White Sands explosion of a nuke that started to break down those barriers. And perhaps something like that one faceless, pale entity spewing out what looks to be offal and eggs with demonic entities like Bob trapped within them is the beginnings of evil presences starting to take hold in our world, such as Killer Bob. So part of me thinks that perhaps in response to that, it was the Giant and the residents of the White or the Good Lodge that went about crafting some kind of deterrent for the demonic entities. And one such deterrent was this little ball of gold that we came to know as Laura Palmer, because they seemed to give that orb their blessing in the form of the woman embracing it tenderly, giving it love and affection before she sends it on its way to Earth. Now, I don't mean literally to Earth, but like that Laura Palmer in some way, shape, or form can represent a very pure and innocent essence that can counteract the evil contained within the Black Lodge. That's an interesting idea. And that she was sort of perhaps fated and born into kind of balancing the scales with her death or with her sacrifice, perhaps. And if you go to Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, the movie, you can see that at play quite a bit, in that Killer Bob / Leland is on a rampage throughout that movie to not just like abuse her or use her, but to possess her in a way, to take her over, to corrupt her completely. And I feel through lots of things, through the symbolism of the ring she has, through kind of this vision she receives of a heavenly angel, of a divine being that gives her comfort, keeps her from giving into that corruption. And that's what forces him to kill her, is that if he can't possess her, he's going to destroy her. So you could be seeing the beginnings of the White Lodge residents beginning to take up resistance against these darker forces. But then a couple years later, perhaps the darker forces set out to, increase their own power, and you get what happens in 1956 with Frog Moth Wasp and the woodsman going around saying, "This is the water, and this is something like that." But it's a lot to digest, and I don't think it's going to be that simple. That's really just what given my own very basic understanding of the way Twin Peaks has worked in the past, that's just my own kind of interpretation of these events. And it seems to be kind of a common thing that other people have interpreted since Sunday night's episode. It's a trip, though. And it is very easy. It's something that you have to rewatch. I was just talking with a friend about this online about an hour ago, is that this is a show, either you're in it or you aren't. You might hate being in it, but you're going to revisit it again and again to kind of pick up on details. Pick up on all the little idiosyncrasies that are taking place, not just with the main story, but with side characters and subplots. Because you never know when one of those subplots is all of a sudden going to become the most important thing going on. And as I stated in my previous McChats, we might not have a full grasp of what David Lynch is trying to accomplish until the last frame of the last episode of this. I could see this past episode being a combination of, I want to be able to get the origins out there a little bit, perhaps get the mythology that's been established, show people where it might have began, but at the same time, I just don't want to outright show them. I want to be able to approach it with a very vague style and very vague understanding. So that's been on par with a couple of shows in the past couple of years, to kind of, again, maintain that relevance for today's modern audience, to keep you guessing and not to give you all the keys to the kingdom right away. Is that, who's to say that any of that actually was something that took place? That might all just be representative of whatever. Those towns in question could actually just be representative of what took place in Twin Peaks. Like the barrier breaking down between the spiritual realm and our reality could have been the equivalent of a nuke going off for somebody, who knows. But I'm very, very interested, to say the least, where they go from here now that they've laid out a whole bunch of mindfuckery that you hope pays off in the long run. Now, I won't lie, I might be very disappointed if this whole episode amounted to nothing. If all this was just to show off style instead of substance, I don't know. I'll have to wait a couple of weeks, I guess, to see where we're left off with. Because as much as I love David Lynch's style, I've always been able to follow it for the most part. I've always been able to not lose track of where I am in the story because he decides to get extremely artsy-fartsy at a certain point. But if this is his last hurrah for producing something cinematically, he might have just thrown caution to the wind. And he's just like, fuck it, I like this image and I'm going to put it up there whether it makes sense or not. If you get it, kudos for you all. But if you don't, well, you're still going to tune in anyway because you're a sucker. I love the guy's visuals. I love his style. I love what he can do with characters when he really hunkers down and works with them. But I hope this isn't a case of his style finally ran away from him a little bit, and it was just a chance to kind of show off that he could put whatever up on the screen. As much as it was whatever was up there on the screen, I hope it ties in to what he's trying to accomplish. Because I'd like to think there's something grander at play here than just, I'm just going to come back to the series and fuck with everybody. Because I don't think he'd be that spiteful. I think he actually really likes this world. I think he actually likes the characters of Dale Cooper and Laura Palmer. And that in order to come back and feel as though he's adding something new, he just needs to put them through the meat grinder. And if it does feel like that, it feels like that's what he's doing, at least with Coop, is that it's going to be a long road for him to get back to his old self. But that he will eventually get back to his old self, albeit maybe a little bit wiser, a little bit more in the know of what's taking place in the world around him with regards to these bigger concepts. But I don't like to think that he's just doing this to spite audiences that just don't get him. I think he does have some genuine affection for these characters in this world, and that this is only going to help to further enrich that story. But it is fucking weird. You're best just starting off with the first episode. If you're listening to me right now talk about this and you just came in on that episode, I am sorry, because yeah, I've been following this. I revisited the first 2 seasons well before this new series started, just to stay fresh in the mind. Oh man, I'm as lost as you are at this point, but I'm enjoying being lost. Like, I'm savoring when this show's coming back to Showtime in a couple of weeks. I really want to know where he goes from here. That was an interesting hour of television. So, enough of my trying to understand what the hell's going on in the world of Twin Peaks. Here's a tale from Wookieepedia featuring some of the 3 Geeks guys. Have a laugh and enjoy. For tonight, this tale from Wookieepedia, I'm going to start off with the quote. It's a character, specifically. Yes. And here's the quote. I'll try to do. I've got a problem here. Eject. I can hold it. Pull up. No, Any guesses?
Biggs?
Not Biggs. Biggs is the guy talking to him. Yeah, Max?
Yeah, okay.
You had a guess, Max?
Jag Porkins?
Jack Tono Porkins. So, tonight's tale from Wookieepedia is about Jack Tono Porkins. Jack Tono Porkins was a male human trader and pilot from Bestine. He decided to abandon his homeworld after the Galactic Empire moved in and developed a new military base there, and he ended up joining the Alliance to restore the Republic. In 0 BBY, now, do we ever establish it was before Battle of Yavin? Was that what it was? Okay. Yeah. Jack Porkins flew an X-Wing starfighter in the Rebel Alliance Starfighter Corps during the Battle of Scarif. Oh, so he was actually in Rogue One.
Huh.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
The battle ended with the theft of the technical readouts for the Death Star, a moon-sized Imperial battle station. During the Battle of Yavin, Porkins flew a T-65B X-Wing starfighter as part of Red Squadron, where his call sign was Red 6. Yeah, Max?
That was a good model, the T-65B.
It was an actual model?
I don't know. I'm just.
I was about to be like, did you? Oh, dude. When Garvin Driez ordered the destruction of one of the deflection towers on the surface of the space station, Biggs Darklighter and Porkins both destroyed it with their Starfighter's laser cannons. So good on the guy with the ominous name and the fat one. Porkins' craft struck debris from the tower and began to malfunction, causing him to drift over the Imperial turbo laser batteries mounted on the surface. Ignoring Biggs' warning to eject from the craft, Porkins was killed almost instantly by ground fire. The other pilots in the squadron, as well as the command center at the Great Temple of Masasasi. What?
Masasasi, that's awesome.
Masasasi.
Yeah, I think you got it right.
Did I get it right? Okay.
I think so.
Masasasi. I gotta say it with that inflection. Didn't receive word of his death and asked if he could see Luke Skywalker's fighter a few minutes after being shot down. Oh, shit. I'm sorry. So they didn't give enough of a shit to be like, he might
Wow.
be dead. Fuck it. Hey, Porkins, you still see Luke out there? Buddy? Big guy? You still okay? Oh, this next part. Here we go. Over 3 decades later, Porkins was remembered through the Porkins Belly Run. It's a resistance flight maneuver named in his honor.
What?
The belly run.
Does it go
That's
into
when you
detail? What do you do?
decide.
Here's the thing. Porkins Belly Run has its own wiki, so let's get into it really quick.
Okay.
I just think of Slippy telling you to pull a belly run.
Do a belly run.
Do a barrel roll.
Barrel roll.
The Porkins Belly Run was a flight maneuver taught as a training basic to the pilots of the Resistance around 30 years after the Battle of Endor. It was named in honor of the venerated pilot, Jectono Porkins, who flew for the Alliance. It doesn't say the specifics of it. I'm guessing it's you notice something's wrong and then you crash and no one cares.
That's what I was wondering.
And no one cares.
Yeah, it's where you scrape the belly of your starship against something else, killing everyone.
I guess.
Well, maybe it's where they teach them to eject.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah.
You notice
It's
something's
really
wrong,
the
just eject.
sentence,
Like, I'm hit. Do a belly run.
It's the most. I don't know. Come on. Like, that's in the official Force Awakens novelization, apparently.
Yeah, that's what I
Is that
figured
true?
if it was 30 years later.
So, how insensitive are these writers? To be like, the fat guy who had technical issues? Let's name the maneuver the belly run.
Okay. If you
Well,
want to
at
get
least
deep
it's not
cuts,
like. At least it's not the beer run or the bathroom run, you know.
the Porkins pretzel run.
they actually made Porkins pretzels, and that's what's actually venerated.
Yeah.
That
Oh my god, I'm going to buy some. Do you think they hand out Porkins pretzels on in flight?
These are really salty.
like people come to the factory and they put down like incense and they leave with giant pretzels.
It's just this whole article is it's first of all, it's like it's not the most flattering maneuver name.
No.
Second of all, I just love that no one noticed he was shot down and they still acted like he's out there. Hey, can you see
But
Luke?
okay, Biggs was like, "Hey, dude, pull up or whatever," get out of here. And then he gets shot down, and Biggs is like, "Well, fuck that guy," and then didn't even think twice about it.
No, Biggs is like, is he gonna be all right? He'll be all right. Hey, Luke, hey, Porkins, he's fine. Be a dick then. Don't answer.
Yeah. Fucking Biggs is talking to him the whole time.
Meanwhile, on the
Big
other end,
still talks to him.
the silent static that he mistakes for being passive aggressive.
Whenever Biggs flies now, he's holding Porkins' fucking dog tags. He's like, "Talk to me, Porkins."
It's his PTSD.
Didn't Biggs die? Yeah, he died too, didn't he? And no one noticed maybe that's the revenge.
I thought Biggs lived.
No, I think he died.
Yeah. I thought there was Wedge and there was Biggs, and one of them
Wedge
lived.
lives.
Oh, Wedge lived.
Wedge lived.
And in honor of both Biggs and Porkins, he ignores that they died at all.
Here, come to the famously named Big Porkins
They're still
Canyon.
they're fighting.
Big Porkins Canyon. There you go.
Sitting, rotting in the fucking hangar. Biggs didn't clean it. Shit.
They're fighting on Hoth. They're fighting on Hoth, and he's still talking to him like they're on comms. Porkins, Biggs, come on, guys, help out. Where are you? Oh, so between
One
that,
day, Porkins
When I
wasn't
get back
big
to
enough to be noticed.
I am gonna give that fucking Porkins a piece of my mind.
he'll never get a
That's right,
maneuver
he's
named
dead.
after him.
That
pretzel.
son of a bitch.
It's the callous disregard throughout his entire story.
Yeah.
that sells me. No one bothered to see if he was actually alive. And 30 years later, they're like, what do we remember about that guy? Oh, he was a fat ass.
He was fat.
He was fat.
Fat dude named Porkins.
Let's name a maneuver after him. The belly run. That should be good.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, why not just call it the Porkins run? That would at least honor his name. And it still gives you the idea that he's big anyways. I mean, obviously his name was no iteration for his size.
How did he even fit in that cockpit though?
It's kind of poured him in. He gets real high in the ladder, and they kind of push him over, and he kind of lands.
All those dudes do like the pre-flight shit on the. They gotta like grease up the inside of the fucking X-wing. You can get Porkins in there.
Porkins is actually in there nude.
I feel so bad because
So they just latex.
that actor's been in a lot of stuff I love. Like he was one of the agents in Raiders of the Lost Ark. He was one of the American guys talking to Indy, being like, "You got to help us find the Ark" or whatever. And then he was Eckhart in Batman.
Yes.
Okay.
And all he's attack and died, and nobody noticed in that one too.
Yeah. He probably died in Raiders too, just off screen somewhere.
Deleted scenes of Nicholson being like, "Eckhart, where are you? Brought you a little snack, Eckhart." Fine, be that way, you prick. Oh man.
He says all kinds of terrible things about Eckhart's mother.
Bob the Goon's like, dude, ratchet it back. The guy died. You shot him. I did what? You shot him.
Nah, I was just talking to him the other day.
I was just talking to him. Oh, Jack, you're old.